Sega has announced the next 10 games for the Sega Genesis Mini, and to me, it's even more surprising than the last 10 games. In fact, it's downright perplexing. The 10 new games that were announced are Street Fighter II, Ghouls and Ghosts, Alex Kidd in the Enchanted Castle, Beyond Oasis, Golden Axe, Phantasy Star 4, Sonic Spinball, Vector Man, and the Wonder Boy in Monster World. Now, my own predictions, which I was fairly confident about, have all been more or less completely shattered by this announcement. First, I made the rather astute observation that the first 20 games came entirely from titles that M2 previously emulated for the Wii Virtual Console, or for more recent projects like the stuff they're doing for Konami. I extrapolated from that perhaps the rest of the games to come would come from that narrow list. However, now we find that they're doing Yu Yu Hakusho in Japan, a very highly praised fighting game by Treasure that they've never emulated, and also Mega Man The Wily Wars, a game that they've also never emulated up until now. So yes, while it's true the rest of today's announcements fit my hypothesis that the games would be restricted to what they've done in the past, there are just too many counterexamples to that now. It's been like 3 strikes, all bets are off, and I'm back to thinking that pretty much anything can be on this thing, and I have nothing more to offer with any kind of certitude. Also, I speculated that Capcom wouldn't be participating in this, since they are also releasing their own plug-and-play arcade hardware later this year. I figured that since many of the games Capcom would be releasing on that compilation are also popular Genesis games, that Capcom wouldn't want to release them for the Sega Genesis Mini for fear that they'd be undercutting their own potential market. I also speculated we wouldn't be seeing Street Fighter II, since that game is far better with the 6-button controller, and since we're not getting the 6-button controller, it only made sense that Street Fighter II would not be a consideration. But guess what? I was wrong about that too. Instead, according to one news source that I saw, they'll be releasing a compatible 6-button controller for $20 ahead of the release of the Mini, which is baffling and frustrating at the same time. There's no other game announced so far that would benefit from a 6-button controller. This news kind of sucks. So, I was right about Beyond Oasis, Golden Axe, and Phantasy Star 4. I was half right about Vector Man because I predicted either it or Pulse Man, but I hoped for Pulse Man. And I predicted a Monster World game, but I hoped for Monster World 4. And it looks like I'm wrong about Revenge of Shinobi too, since that was announced for Japan and not elsewhere. In short, I haven't been very accurate at all, in case you're keeping score. Let's talk about this list though. Wily Wars is the big news that everyone is talking about. It was never released in the US on a cartridge, it was one of those Sega Channel games, so people are pretty stoked, I guess. But I also recall this version of Mega Man having fairly mixed reviews. From what I recall, there were issues with the Genesis version of the beloved Mega Man soundtrack, as well as some slowdown issues. This is the one announced game so far that I've never played. Perhaps M2 has what it takes to fix the issues, and it'll be great. Who knows? Outside of this, for me, there are a lot of disappointing inclusions this time around. I know a lot of people like Vector Man, but I find that game generic and mediocre. Again, I remember critics praising it very highly in its time, but I was sorely disappointed then, and I'm disappointed in its inclusion now. Also, Alex Kidd is baffling to me. I don't know anyone who likes this game. It's got slippery controls, and it forces you to play rock, paper, scissors. I really like the Master System games, especially the original and Alex Kidd in Shinobi World, but this game is just a stinker. The same could be said for Sonic Spinball. What a great idea, but even in its own time this game wasn't very well received or very popular. It looks great, except for the terrible frame rate, but it's more frustrating to play than it is fun. It just sucks. The other games like Phantasy Star 4 and Golden Axe, a lot of people completely love them, which is partly why I predicted them. But quite a few of these new additions just aren't very good. I have good high hopes for the Wily Wars, but I'm pretty sure the best way to play Mega Man 2 is probably still on the NES. That being said, what could be included for the last 10 games? Looking at my own predictions, which I'm still going to stand by after we eliminate what we already know, the following games remain as possibilities as far as I'm concerned. I'm especially hopeful for Sonic 3 and Knuckles. So what games do you predict for the final 10? Let me know in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching.